Peggy 18.
I wish I had some omelet rice.
It is almost time. Take this mission more seriously. You're not like that perverted buffoon.
Yeah. I hear ya, partner.
Well, we can solve any case as long as you have me.
Who are you talking to?
No one.
Hi everyone, as always I'm Mark and welcome to Numskull Presents. Today we're going to be taking a look at our upcoming games across 2021. We're going to be having a first look at gameplay of RICO London, our first person shooter. We're going to be taking a closer look at Clive N Wrench, our 3D platformer, and the dynamic boss battles found within. And we're also going to be taking a deep dive look into the roguelite shoot 'em up driving game Gearshifters. So yeah, we've got a lot to cover. We're also going to be giving away codes for the digital edition of Battle Axe on Nintendo Switch, PS4, Steam and Xbox. So keep an eye on the video because these could crop up at any time and they're definitely going to go fast. How about that trailer that kicked things off? We are thrilled to have partnered with Chunsoft as the UK and European publisher of the physical standard and collector's editions of either Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative. We are super thrilled to be publishing this game and continuing on from our physical release of Part 1 in 2019. Speaking of Chunsoft, we recently announced that we're also handling the UK and EU physical standard and collector's editions of Danganronpa Decadence for Nintendo Switch. This 4-game collection will be dropping onto Nintendo consoles on the 3rd of December 2021, and we're stoked by all the excitement we've received from fans following the announcement. Both of these games are available to pre-order now. Check out the links in the YouTube description for more information on how to order. We're also happy to reveal that we will be handling the European physical release of Undernauts Labyrinth of Yomi. We'll have more updates on this first-person dungeon crawling RPG later this year. RICO London is fast approaching. Let's see some of that gun-blazing gameplay.
Need I remind you, D.I. Redfern, that tonight is the biggest single policing operation in Metropolitan Police history.
Gov, I'm a highly trained anti-terrorism officer, and you want me on crowd control?
You and 12,000 others. We need all hands on deck for this one. We're even bussing in uniforms from the provinces. You don't get to talk your way out of this.
So, with respect, I don't think the terrorist fraternity are going to take a night off just because we're ushering in a new millennium.
We were thrilled by the reaction to RICO London when we announced it earlier this year. Today we're going to walk you through how the gang-busting, name-taking, explosive co-op shooter works. The game takes place on the New Year's Eve of 1999, and you find yourself in the shoes of Detective Inspector Redfern. Without the permission of her superior, Redfern busts up a weapons trade deal at the foot of a high-rise London tower block. Your aim is to work your way through the tower, taking down enemies, crashing through doors, dodging bullets, sliding across floors, swapping out weapons, throwing knives, hitting melees, and of course, shooting bullets. RICO London is the definition of fast-paced first-person shooting, but it also allows customizability in the way that you play. After completing levels, you'll be awarded medals. These medals can be used as currency between stages in the upgrades menu. This allows the purchase of new supplies such as medkits, weapons like the Lockstock shotgun, and permanent upgrades that reduce weapon recoil or restore health. Focus your medals on the abilities that suit your playstyle as you work your way through the tower block. We've mentioned co-op briefly. We're also excited to announce that you'll be able to play on Nintendo Switch in handheld mode with local split screen, meaning you can truly take the co-op experience anywhere with just one game required. That's enough talk. Let's showcase a bit of raw gameplay from RICO London itself. So to start with, we've got two different difficulties. We've got easy mode, which has no permadeath, and normal, which has permadeath and friendly fire. As you start playing through RICO, you'll realise just how arcadey the action is. This is a comic book world, it is not a real one. So that is absolutely emphasised by these incredible physics. People will go flying all over the shop as you connect with bullets, and it really makes the game stand out. You'll need to pick up medkits to replenish your health. There's no auto health regen. This is old school as it comes. You'll have to breach the doors to get into each room. Quite often this will reveal a new set of foes to fight. You'll see the physics there. Boom, again there with the melee attack straight into that wall. You're rewarded with slow motion and physics as you connect with bullets. Of course, each of these levels are procedurally generated. The layouts of the levels, including locations of items, enemies, and the actual end of the level itself, will be different each time you play. You'll see here I come up against a grenade, and it is my downfall. Blast your way up the high-rise tower stacked with East End gangsters, solo or with a partner, in RICO London, due for physical release this September on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4. Also available digitally on Steam, Xbox, and the previously mentioned platforms. Boss battles aplenty, tear through dynamic encounters with Clive N Wrench. I know some of you are clamouring for the release date of Clive N Wrench. Unfortunately, we don't have this yet, as we are still giving the game the development time it deserves. But we do have more exciting updates from development and plan to give you more of these over the coming months. Please be patient, we believe the wait will be worth it. Boss battles are a huge part of the worlds that make up this 3D platform game, so today we wanted to put the focus on a few of these threats that stand in front of our rabbit and monkey duo. Drew the Ripper is the first boss you'll encounter. He's an Australian kangaroo living in Victorian London, wanted for suppressing the spread of his own negative press and vandalising newspapers. His presence is felt throughout the Great Wen, with posters adorning the walls of its rainy streets. Drew is recruited by Dr. Dorcas with the hope that his skill with throwing scissors and hiding nefarious deeds may stop Clive N Wrench in their tracks. He also possesses the poker chip artifact, which is the key to unlocking the next time period. His fight itself takes place a little later in the year upon the frozen surface of the River Thames during a snowstorm. His attack patterns evolve from simply throwing scissors at Clive N Wrench to breaking away parts of the ice beneath them and eventually spinning up some ever-present boomerang scissors that orbit the entire boss arena. In order to beat him, Clive N Wrench must lure him into cutting the ropes that suspend the anchor dangling above his head in order to quite literally knock him off his perch. Annie Oaktree is a sheep rustling squirrel who makes her home in the Wild West. Her plan is to change the train route for the annual Sheriff's Tour and plunge all of Marstown's lawmen into a ravine, finally putting an end to her difficulties. That is until Clive N Wrench happen to appear on the roof of said train. The fight itself is less of a one-on-one affair and more a scramble to stop Clive N Wrench from reaching the engine and pulling the brake. Of course, Annie isn't going to make that easy. She uses her rustled sheep as projectiles to try and knock the duo off the roof, and if that wasn't challenging enough, the gunslingers tasked with protecting the lawmen have got the wrong end of the stick and are after stopping Clive N Wrench as well. All you have to do is get to the front of the train before it careens into a canyon, dodging sheeps, bullets, cowboys, overhead signs and Dr. Dowcas's imps. Oh, and not fall in between the cars or into the hot coals as well. Sounds easy, right? Captain Bluebeard is a pun-slinging baboon, scourge of the seas and tamer of the Kraken. He is the self-appointed owner of Corsair's Cove and can regularly be found bawling in the local pub, the Salty Snail. The captain's battle sees Clive N Wrench materialise and fall directly into one of his cannons, only to then be blasted away. Our duo then find themselves reunited with Denise Flint Loxley, a fox that they spring from Bluebeard's prison tower within the level Corsair's Cove. She informs them that she and her newly acquired crew have secretly rigged Bluebeard with TNT, but unfortunately have been unable to reach the detonator without the Kraken making short work of them. Cue Clive and Wrench having to find their way through a devious gauntlet full of traps, enemies and tricky obstacles. One misstep can easily result in them plunging into the murky depths below and becoming the Kraken's latest snack. It's definitely worth treading carefully here. Clive and Wrench is full of characters and many more boss battles like these. Keep an eye on our channels throughout the year to find out more about this varied platforming, time-travelling adventure. Let us know if there are any other things you'd like to know about the game in the comments section. Drive, destroy, get paid, upgrade. Let's talk about Gearshifters. Hello everyone, I'm Mark and I am joined by Richard from Red Phantom Games. Today we're talking about our upcoming game Gearshifters. We showed the trailer off in our previous Numskull Presents. We're very, very excited to be talking to Richard today.
Hello, Mark. I'm Richard Ogden, director of Red Phantom Games. We've spent the last 2+ years developing the game, and getting close to being able to show it to everyone now, and getting excited by that.
How would you best describe Gearshifters?
So I guess I don't know if it's best to say best, but I would describe it as being a blend of things that I like. So it's a top-down shoot 'em up. It's a roguelike as well. It sort of takes a lot of that old school kind of arcade vibe and blends it in with some sort of more modern design thinking, I guess. So you basically, it's a post-apocalyptic setting. It's a driving game. You're controlling a sort of tooled up, weaponized car as you're barreling down a road, destroying enemies. Side-scrolling. Your goal is to perform delivery missions. So you're trying to get to the end of the route, deliver your cargo, get paid. And when you get paid, you then got more money to put more cool stuff on your car and do it all over again. Obvious influence is Spy Hunter. So I played that a lot back in the day. And I remember it being a really difficult game, but I also remember it being some fun and a cool setting. So I think part of the influence of Gearshifters is just really that game. But there's a lot of other influences in there. And I say it's a roguelike. I play a lot of stuff like Dead Cells or FTL or Into the Breach, and those kind of hybrid roguelikes is where I'm quite interested in the design side of it. So that's been a big part of influence on the structure and some of the mechanics in the game.
I love coming back to roguelites because it helps give me an incentive to take my character, or in this case a car, for another spin.
Yeah, exactly. And you just got to put in a bit more time rather than putting in another 10 pence piece.
You've mentioned there's a post-apocalyptic theme going on here. So can you tell me how the story has developed a bit?
I wanted to avoid the whole, it's like Mad Max and we're in a yellow desert and there are spiky cars. I didn't want it to be that kind of post-apocalyptic thing, or post-nuclear apocalypse, or post-zombie apocalypse. Characters in the game call it the collapse, but it was a bit more of a gradual decline of civilization, as like if you're really pessimistic, you might imagine it'd happen over the next 20 years or something. So in a sense, trying to be a bit more grounded and realistic. So the game is set across Europe. The areas of the continent are ruled by these various factions, and you're a member of the Gearshifters Guild, which is a sort of organization set up to provide delivery services to people who, they may need food, they may want weapons or tools, and perform the missions. So as the player character, you're undefined in the game. We don't have any imagery of the player, and that's a conscious decision just to let the real player identify with that character in whatever way they want to. So in terms of the characters that you interact with, you've got Alexander, who is the boss of the Gearshifters Guild. And he's basically the guy who is going to send you out on your missions. He's quite a stern guy. Kind of has a little bit of an agenda, but obviously I'm not going to talk about anything on that subject a bit more. And also he's someone who has a little bit of a relationship with the player character. There's some past history there, and he's favourable towards you. You've then got EJ, who is the mechanic, looks after your car, puts the upgrades in place. It's quite a supportive character as well. Then you've got Zuri, and they are your rival, and they will give you a bit of a niggle here and there in a somewhat friendly kind of way. On top of those guys, you've got all the boss characters as well, and a few others. Boss characters will pop up occasionally when you're fighting the bosses in the game.
Boss battles are something I definitely wanted to cover, actually. When I was able to play your beta, I really enjoyed the way that the bosses worked, because you can run into the bosses in the world and you may not actually be able to take them down in your first attempt fighting them, which I thought was quite unique. So could you explain to us a little bit more about how progression in the game works, starting with the boss battles?
Boss battles are the last stage of each zone. Each zone has 3 stages in it. So you're kind of aiming to get to the boss within each zone. In terms of the design, I specifically wanted to be able to go past a boss without getting mashed by it and sort of your whole progression getting stopped, because I quite often find that in games. I can't beat that boss. But yeah, I just thought it'd be a unique kind of idea to say, well, actually, you don't have to kill the boss. You can go past it. Though you kind of do have to kill it if you really want to finish the game. It just doesn't stop your immediate progression. And also the flip side of that is if you do kill the boss, they're done with and you don't see them again. Even though it's a roguelike and you will sort of come back through those zones, you've eliminated the boss and you don't need to see them again. So there's kind of this war of attrition where you can take down a faction by forming repeated runs on a zone after the boss has been killed, and that kind of lets you almost take territory across the map as you go. And it just sort of alleviates a bit of that grind that you get from roguelikes, just to help the player sort of flow. And that's kind of driven by the narrative a little bit. The narrative needed a bit of assistance to let you get through the game without having to sort of repeat a level 100 times and see the random dialogue, of which there are 6 options too many times.
You mentioned the bosses do have a fair few tricks up their sleeve. So does our player. It's possible to upgrade your vehicle in the game in quite a few different ways. Could you talk us through some of the available upgrade styles, and if there are any particular ones that are your favourites?
The upgrades in the game, they're quite wide ranging. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you'd expect. I mean, you've basically got a tooled out car with weapons on it. So there's a bunch of different weapons you can put on. There's a primary and a secondary weapon, so you've always got 2 available to you. One of them has a sort of cooldown mechanic, so it's always usable. The other one is limited by ammunition. And there's a bit of a range on those from you start off with machine guns and whatnot. And there's some cannons and quad shotguns, which are a bit more, again, kind of leaning into the shmup influence. And then on top of that, armor plating, combat upgrades. I mean, I talked about not having spikes on the car, but you can put spikes on the car if you want to. And spikes on the wheels. Yeah, exactly. So performance upgrades as well. So, making things lighter, improving your transmission, improving your brakes, things like that. So there's a bit of stuff in there for petrol heads as well.
Yeah.
And then in a bit more sort of pure game mechanic-y kind of way. There's, I think, what we call charge abilities, which are kind of activatable abilities. When you've got those, you can choose one to assign to your car. One of those is the oil slick that you can throw out the back and make chasing enemies skid out, which is an obvious reference to Spy Hunter. Again, it's the roguelike thing. It's having a lot of choice, being able to say, okay, these are the kind of strategies that I want to employ when I go through this level. Yeah, so the main gameplay, or the main game mode, I guess, is more akin to your standard roguelike, where if you die, you're going to be going back to the start. I mean, you don't lose your stuff, but you've got to restart your run or mission, essentially. It's not a complete wipeout back to the start of the game. Arcade mode does away with that, so it has a checkpointed approach. And I think that came from, there's a bit of a trend towards shorter games and accommodating people who have less time available to play games but still want to play certain titles. And I'd like those people to be able to play this game. If they've only got 3 or 4 hours available to put into it, then they can play arcade mode. If you've got 8 to 10 hours, then play standard mode. Those timings are approximate. And then on top of that, we've got what we call the deadly mode, which is going to the opposite end of the spectrum, and that's basically a permadeath mode. So if you die in that one, you are going back to the start of the game. But there's a little, I won't say what it is, but there's a little unlock you can get only by completing deadly mode.
Oh, cool. That's a nice little challenge for those enthusiasts who like a bit of punishment.
I would advise playing one of the other modes first, getting used to the game. I mean, that's pretty standard, right? So
Cool. So thank you very much for your time today, Richard. It's been really awesome to hear a little bit more about Gearshifters. It's been great to talk to you about it and show off some of the features involved in what is quite a crazy, fast-paced game. Gearshifters will be releasing physically and digitally on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and it will also be releasing digitally on Xbox One and Steam later this year. So we will give you a few more updates about Gearshifters as the year progresses. Want to take Gearshifters for a spin? There's currently a demo available on Steam, which is available until July 15th. Make sure you play it before it goes forever. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. If you want to support us and the games we're showcasing, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment down below to help expand our reach. It's genuinely very much appreciated. For those of you who have patiently waited, here are the digital codes for Battle Axe. You'd better be quick before someone else claims them. Until next time, cheers everyone. Here are our socials if you want to follow us.